What's up, you guys? Joe Dobby here. I am now a Deck Out Gaming affiliate. Use Joe Dobbs Deck Out at checkout. Deck Out Gaming has tons of singles for Pokemon, Dragon Ball Super, and Digimon TCG, as well as One Piece. They now buy list as well, so don't hesitate to reach out, and they got your back. Really high customer service ratings. Thank you guys, and yeah, let's get to the video. What's up, you guys? Joe Dobby here with another video for you today, and we're going to be going over my starting point for BT12 Beelzemon. I've reviewed some lists, and honestly, I think that this is the list that I'm going to be starting off with and heavily testing before I dive into anything else. This deck, I think, maximizes consistency quite well, but still manages to play pieces such as the Security Impmon and the X-Antibodies to kind of add more value to your potential turns. So I'm going to dive right into this, and apologies for not regularly uploading. Personal life has been very, very busy. Work has been very busy. And, you know, personal life has been great, but there's a lot of life events and a lot of fun stuff in April for me and my family, which is why I haven't been able to post that often. But that said, I'm going to dive right into this. So first things first, you're probably wondering, why is he playing the EX2 Yamon? It's very simple. This deck has a lot of inheritables that allow you to trash cards from your deck when attacking. So it's very easy to get to 10 cards or more in trash, and being able to give any of your Digimon, even the wizards like Balmon, Wizardmon, Witchmon, 2k because you have 10 cards in your trash, can be pretty important. In addition to that, sometimes blockers get really in the way of your plans early on if you want to start swinging, and just getting over certain DP thresholds can be very helpful. That said, you can always pivot back to the on deletion Pagu, which allows you to trash top 2, but I'm going to be testing this Yamon just to see how much of a difference the extra DP does give me. Next, we're going to be diving into this, the advanced deck, Yamon. And yeah, we already know what this guy does. When attacking once per turn, trash the top 2 cards of your deck if it's got Wizard or Demon Lord in its traits. So expect a lot of trashing from this Yamon, and not so much the BT2 Impmon that just starts to, you know, attack and just try to pull things off that way. I want to go up into a line, and I want to stop at Balmon typically, and then potentially, you know, go straight into Beelz X when I'm ready to go. Next, we're running the Digimon X-Antibody. So this is the first deck card of BT12 that we'll be using. On play and when digivolving, by trashing one option card in your hand, you may return one Digimon card with Evil, Wizard, or Demon Lords in its traits from your trash to your hand. So very, very helpful stuff, because you can combo this with X-Antibody, where you can basically trash X-Antibody to pick up Balmon X-Antibody. And then if you pick up Balmon, then you're able to retrieve that X-Antibody that you just trashed, which is pretty awesome, right? It's like zero, it's like zero downside. So that's a very good combo. And when attacking inheritable, trash the top 2 cards of your deck. So between the Yamon and the Impmon actually has no caveat to it. It's just trash top 2 no matter who is attacking, which is absolutely huge. And as a combination, that's already a trash 4 with Witchmon and the new Wizardmon. That's at least a trash 6, which is already like huge, right? Next, the EX2 Impmon is a card that you definitely want to keep playing. It allows you to search for Beelzemons, Iron Makos, and in addition to that, when this card's trashed from the top of your deck, you may trash up to 3 cards from the top of your deck. So you can choose as many as you want to trash. I always go for the 3 early game, and then towards late game is when I really start to consider how much I'm trashing. That said, this Impmon is very, very clutch, because you can kind of place it to the top of your deck as a result of Iron Mako's effect, and then proceed to trash. And then when you do that, you can trigger its, obviously, its effect to trash 3 more. So it's very good at turbo, and I prefer this over BT2 Impmon because, once again, I don't really want to start swinging. I want to go up into a line that can swing and survive until I get what I need, or until I'm able to play Beelzemon from trash. Next, the security Impmon that I have been waiting for so long. Security effect at the end of battle, so battle does take place, which is good for killing rookies if you've got 2k Digimon swinging at you. You may play one purple level 3 Digimon card from your trash. So it's any card at all, so you can play the EX2 Impmon to find Iron Makos, which could be huge for your following turn. You can play Impmon X-Antibody, which can then trigger its on-play effect, because its on-play is also a when Digivolving effect, and you can do a whole bunch of cool things, so that's very, very awesome. Alright, you guys, now we're going into the advanced deck Impmon. We are already familiar with this guy. When attacking, if you have 20 or more cards in trash, go into Beelzemon for 3 cost from trash without paying its Digivolution requirements. So pretty good stuff. Inheritable also is delete one of your opponent's level 3 when a card's trash from the top of your deck. So that's also a very good thing. I like to put this guy in raising when I'm ready to go for game, and in this case, game is even more solid with Beelzemon X, and we'll go over that later. Wizardmon X, super cool stuff. So when Digivolving, trash the top 2 cards of your deck, so it kind of replaces Witchmon in that regard, and if Wizardmon or X-Antibody is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, it gains blocker. Pretty much, it gains blocker until the end of your opponent's turn instead. The word instead is very important here because you won't be able to trash the top 2 cards of your deck if Wizardmon or X-Antibody is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards. So it'll just gain blocker and you're not going to be able to trash the top 2. You kind of have to pick one there. Just manage your Digivolutions very carefully. I would say early game, just hold on to your Wizard and just go into Wizardmon X just to build that trash. And then you can use Wizard potentially to gain memory by placing it to the top of your deck, right? With Iron Mako when you Digivolve. So that's a good option to have. It's really important to decide the timing at which you do either or effect. Generally, you want to trash early and then build blocker for a crucial moment in the game when you really need a certain amount of security to stay on to not lose next turn or something like that. So that's pretty good. Its inheritable effect is when attacking once per turn, trash the top 2 cards of your deck. Once again, there's no drawback here, so you'll trash very, very quickly if you just simply go up a stack. This is the Wizardmon that we're all very familiar with from the advanced deck as a promo as well. It's basically a reprint. When it's trashed from the card of this card is trashed from the top of your deck, sorry about that, gain 1 memory, and when attacking you may reveal a purple card from your hand and place it at the top of your deck. So it's pretty neat stuff that you can do all this, because obviously with the Wizard X, with the Iron Mako, with the Balmon, you're able to trigger multiple things in multiple ways depending on how you sequence them to gain the most advantage. You can kind of, instead of using Iron Mako for Wizardmon X, you can gamble and go into Balmon and then see what cards you might have trashed with Wizardmon X. And then if you need to use cards from your hand to trigger Iron Mako to, you know, place a card to the top of your deck to resolve an effect, then you go into Balmon with no issues. So that's pretty good stuff. This makes the deck significantly faster overall with the introduction of the X-Antibody cards. Next, we've got Witchmon. Effect when Digivolving, trash top 3 cards of your deck. We're already familiar with this guy. And when this Digimon has Wizard or Demon Lord, it gets plus 2k DP. I think the 2k DP is going to be very, very important. In mirrors that might play blockers to try and be cheeky, and in other decks that will have blockers as well. I would just be wary of how low your Digimon's DP can get, especially when you're about to swing for game. Even if you're trashing security and doing all of that, just make sure that, you know, your build has some form of DP gains, so you're not necessarily like getting wrecked. Next, Beelzemon X-Antibody. So pretty good stuff here. When Digivolving, return 1 X-Antibody from trash to hand. When Digivolving, trash top 3 cards of your deck. If this Digimon has Beelzemon or X-Antibody in its Digivolution cards, delete one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon instead. So much like Wizardmon X-Antibody, it's an instead. So, what isn't part of that instead clause is return an X-Antibody. So no matter what, you're going to return 1 X-Antibody option from trash to hand, which pairs very, very well with the Impmon X-Antibody, because when you on player Digivolve into Impmon X-Antibody, you can trash the X-Antibody option and then retrieve potentially Beelzemon from your trash, right? So, or retrieve, let me get that right. Yeah, or retrieve Beelzemon X-Antibody. So when you retrieve Beelzemon X-Antibody, you can then just Digivolve into it, and then take that X-Antibody that you trashed with Impmon X-Anti back to your hand. So you're kind of like not losing anything for that exchange. It's just a sequence of plays that net you just more gains. So that's very, very good stuff. What is the instead clause here is you either trash top 3 or you delete one of your opponent's level 4 or lower. So you just be careful of when you are going into Beelzemon and Beelzemon X. Plan ahead by determining, by getting familiar with the matchups that you have, whether good or bad, and, just figuring out when the best timing is to do certain things. Next is the advanced deck Beelzemon. The reason why I like this guy over the other Beelzemon is because it's a when Digivolving effect. This allows you to potentially keep turn and then go into Beelzemon X instead of having to wait another turn with the old Beelzemon. And when Digivolving, this can play out a Beelzemon until the end of your opponent's next turn. And that pairs very well with the Wizardmon X-Anti. So if you've got the Beelzemon line, I would go for the blocker in effect of Wizardmon X-Antibody instead of the trash top 2, for example. Because you're probably going to have enough cards in that line to get to 10 cards anyway to play out Beelzemon if you have it in trash already. So just good stuff overall. And it's another DP boost, so you can swing over Digimon safely, which is very good if you're unable to swing for game because your opponent has a blocker on board that has to be high DP, or just any blocker in general, or multiple blockers, and you can't delete all of them. You'll at least guarantee a forced block, which could lower the amount of bodies on your opponent's board. Next, we're going to go into Beelzemon X-Antibody, the big boy himself, what we have been waiting for, us Beelzemon fans. When Digivolving, if this Digimon has Beelzemon or X-Antibody in its Digivolution cards, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack for every 10 cards in your trash. So let's assume there's one stack, right? So one stack alone, the Beelzemon will trash top 3. This guy could potentially trash top 3, but let's assume the Beelzemon from previous was there, then Beelzemon X will delete a level 4, so it'll delete a blocker. And then let's say you have this wizard and you have this wizard, so it in itself is a blocker, and you've trashed top 5 cards. Let's say you have any Impmon here, and this Impmon in particular, which allows you to trash 2, so you've trashed 7 cards, and then this right here is trash 9 cards, right? So with your first stack, you're probably looking at about 15 cards in trash when the stack dies. So you don't actually have to go into this Beelz X-Antibody just yet. You go into the Beelzemon, you swing with the Beelzemon aggressively, keep trashing, and because your DP is relatively high, your opponent's forced to deal with it. And if they don't deal with it, then you're pretty much good to go, right? Like, you're gonna continuously trash things. So eventually, you'll be able to go into Beelzemon X-Antibody, and then the goal is to get to 30 cards in trash. Once you're at 30 cards in trash, then you can swing twice, get to 30 cards in trash, and then trash the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck, or 3 cards of your opponent's security, and win the game. So 2 chip damage is relatively good, but the more chip damage you get, the more you solidify game, so it doesn't really matter at this point. Like, you can solidify it much sooner, for example, at 20 cards in trash, and you happen to go into this full Beelzemon line, so that's very, very good. And on deletion, you may play 1 Digimon card with Impmon in its name from your trash without paying the cost. So good effect overall. This is why I run Beelzemon and X-Antibody, because I do want to see X-Antibody for the warping Impmon. I think being able to warp Impmon into any Beelzemon that I have with X-Antibody underneath, I can warp into Beelz X, and then just swing, like, trash, my opponent's security, and then win the game. So that's a pretty good thing there. Next, we're going into Beelzemon from EX2. When this card's trashed from the top of your deck, you can play an Impmon, which is kind of nice. And then when attacking, when Digivolving, trash top 2 cards of your deck, then delete one of your opponent's level 3 or lower Digimon. For every 10 cards in your trash, add 1 to the maximum level. So pretty good stuff. We are already very familiar with this guy, so I'll move on. Advanced Deck Beelzemon, when digivolving, trash top 4 cards of your deck. All turns, once per turn, when a card is trashed from your deck, gain a memory for every 10 cards in your trash. Your turn once per turn, when a Digimon is trashed from your deck, this Digimon gains security attack +1. So, you know, if for, like, this is another good way to kind of seal the deal here. If you just go into a straight line, then Beelzemon will trash top 4 on Digivolve. It'll trigger all the when attacking that trash 2, and it'll get security attack +1. So you'll get 2 checks at a high amount of DP, trashing potentially what could be 10 cards for the turn, with a combination of your when digivolving effect and your inheritables. So when you do go into Beelz X, you can trash the top card of your opponent's security, which means you're basically doing 2 checks and 1 guaranteed security removal. If you've got 20 cards, you're doing 2 more, 2 security removal or trash instead of the 1. And yeah, just very aggressive, very good overall, which is why I actually want to test out going up into the stack versus just trying to rush out little dudes. Also, all turns once per turn, when a card's trashed from the top of your deck, gain 1 memory for every 10 cards in your trash. So that's some pretty good stuff there, because you just gain more memory on your turn, which allows you to extend your plays. I'm running an aggressive 4 copies of Iron Mako. I can easily reduce this to add more of the BT2 Impmon if I want, but right now I think going up in the stack is really important for me. And I want to test this before going into kind of like the rush version that everyone else is running. So on play, it allows me to search for an evil wizard or demon lord, bottom decking everything else. And when one of my opponents digivolve into when one of my own Digimon, sorry about that, digivolves into a purple Digimon, I can suspend the Tamer to return a card from my hand to the top of my deck and gain a memory. So combos well with the trash effects and is only 3 cost and allows me to search, and it stacks. So the more Iron Makos, the more memory I gain, and the more I can manipulate by adding cards to the top of my deck and then trashing them soon after, which is really, really huge. I found that at 2 Iron Makos, it's actually amazing, like all the plays that you're able to pull off if you're sequencing well and digivolving in the right timing. Next, we've got 1 copy of 7th Full Cluster, which is also a very, very awesome card. Trash effect. So this triggers from trash. So you have to remind yourself, and I would honestly just put this at the top of my trash. Because that really matters. Unless a judge tells you you're not allowed to do that, then you just have to, look at it once, make sure that you know that it's there, and then move on. When one of your opponent's Digimon digivolves into Beelzemon X-Antibody, by returning this card to the bottom of your deck, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level. So you can potentially delete one of your opponent's floodgates, or you can delete a blocker. Typically blockers are lower in level anyway, so that's a very, very good effect, and then you can kind of swing for game that way. Its main effect is delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level, so not too bad. Works very well with Rivals Barrage, because I find that sometimes when my opponent swings for game and they have a rookie that could swing for game, Rivals Barrage deletes the Digimon that was attacking only, and then the rookie's there to like swing lethal. So 7th Full Cluster sometimes can prevent that if you're lucky. I only play 1 though, so I wouldn't expect that too much, but it's all good. 4 copies of Deathslinger here, very typical. I want the memory gains, and the deletion is very guaranteed pretty much. Delete a level 4 or lower for every 10 cards in trash, add 1 to the max level, so pretty good stuff. So I love Rivals Barrage, and I don't think I can run it at less than 4, but I can try 3 the more I feel this deck out and see how it goes. But when this card's trashed from your deck, you may place it in the battle area. Main effect, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest level, and its delay effect, so when it is in your battle area, you can return a purple Digimon card or Tamer card. So 4 Iron Makos means I'm likely going to be trashing some, and being able to return the Iron Makos, especially when I don't see them, is very, very big for me, because I'll be able to digivolve and go up the stack for the least amount of memory possible and keep turn for as long as possible, going into that Beelzemon and potentially just winning the game that way. So very good stuff. And then its security effect, once again, delete your opponent's Digimon with the highest level. Last but not least, 2 copies of X-Antibody. Okay, that's weird. I don't know why it says X program, so let's go ahead and find X-Antibody here. All right, So 2 copies of X-Antibody. Interesting. Anyways, while you have a Digimon in play, you may use this card without meeting its color requirement. So literally anything. Security effect is gain a memory, then add to hand. So it's just a win-win situation overall, because that will accelerate your Impmon X-Antibody play. So you can use X-Antibody to trash and then pick up like a Balmon or a Balmon X or whatever you need. And its main effect is you can place it under one of your Digimon without X-Antibody in its Digivolution cards, as its bottom Digivolution card. So as long as there's no X-Antibody option already, you can add it. So that's very good stuff. And its when attacking effect, inheritable, is this Digimon can digivolve into a Digimon card with X-Antibody and traits from your hand for its Digivolution cost. Which means, basically, with the Warping Impmon, you would be paying 3 to digivolve into Beelzemon, and then Beelzemon will trigger all its effects, and then you can trigger X-Antibody, or I keep pulling up the X program, the X-Antibody to digivolve into this boy for basically 1 over the Beelzemon. So then you trigger everything else, and then it's actually Beelzemon X-Antibody that is attacking. So you'd be swinging for game, hopefully, here. Because the idea is you've got 20 cards in trash, you've chipped them down to, let's say you've chipped them down only 1 security, whatever, you didn't really hit them, and you've got 20 cards in trash. I don't know how you managed to do that. 20 cards in trash, only 1 chip damage, but this deck will probably be that kind of deck. So you have the Impmon, you raise it, you digivolve into Beelzemon, paying 3. So let's say I go into this Beelzemon, I trash 4 cards, and then when a card's trashed from my deck, so I'll gain memory back actually. So at 20 cards, I'll gain 2 memory back. So basically it'll be a 1 Evo. And then with X-Antibody underneath, I can go into this guy, and then it'll trash the top 2 cards of my opponent's security stack and then swing. So if my opponent had 4 security, you will be able to trash the top 2 because you have 20 cards in trash, and then successfully swing for that last security. And if this X-Antibody happens to die in that last security, which will be rare because once again I play a lot of DP boosts, you'll be able to play an Impmon, which could potentially be that 1 Impmon for game. Another really good scenario is you don't even have to worry about any of that because you can swing for game if you have put your opponent to 2 security or 3 security left and they have 20 or 30 cards in trash. Then you're just trashing the top 2 or 3 of their security and swinging for game if they don't have a blocker. And if they do have a blocker, when you digivolve into Beelzemon X-Antibody, you can trigger 7th full cluster from your trash, and hopefully that blocker is your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level on their field, and then you can delete that blocker. So once again, trash 2 or 3 and then swing for game unencumbered by a blocker. So that is pretty much the deck. I think going up in the stack will surprise a lot of people. I think the security Impmon over the BT2 will surprise a lot of people, because I have a feeling that, based on my experience, North American meta really likes to rush a lot, like to swing, or like go swing for all the checks. Like there's not a lot of control elements, or a lot of pacing involved. It's just like, do I have the ability to swing for everything, or do I have the ability to chip damage every turn? You know, that's kind of like what I've noticed in playstyles online, and in person. So going up into the stack with a deck that is expected to rush might throw people off, and it might damage their calculations. And it also protects me because I'll have control elements in the form of the security Impmon being able to bring out Impmon. I can recur Digimon that way. I can set up better inheritables in that way as well. And I can potentially get a blocker. I can potentially, set up Balmon that can play a Beelzemon. So there's a lot more involvement and strategic thinking in a deck like this, which makes the rewards potentially higher as well, because you're not gonna be shut down by a Mechanorimon, for example, or a Machine Dramon as easily as like a rush style quote unquote of deck. But that said, if you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.